obviously we could see Jokic, his talent. He had 2 MVPs, but also there were some doubters. And I was also thinking that, okay, he's not as good defensively. Elite teams might expose him with their pick and rolls once the playoffs come. And this season, I think he was in the best shape of his life, which allowed him to basically do everything.
Speaking of doubters, I have some pre-draft scouting reports of Nikola Jokic 9 years ago.
Now it's easy to say,
Of course.
wow, what a great pick. When Ritis was saying, 40 teams before could have picked him, I was thinking, man, Denver did a great job picking him at 41st because he could have went undrafted easily because a guy out of Europe, you know, you might not maybe have a lot of attention on European guys. Maybe you are thinking, they're soft, you're labeling them, and you're like, nah, we're going to go with this maybe ready product from NCAA, maybe a senior after 4 years to actually come immediately and contribute. So I was thinking, what if he went undrafted? Maybe if Denver doesn't pick him, it doesn't really mean other teams are going to pick him after that.
Exactly.
Or let's say OKC drafted him and stashed him in Europe for 10, 15 years.
Like
Why it couldn't happen?
This is crazy.
Actually, I said a nonsense about 40 teams picking him. There are no 40
teams,
teams in the league.
40 selections.
Yeah, that's fair. But I agree, yeah. What was Denver before Nikola Jokic? What were they known for? Carmelo Anthony,
Allen Iverson.
No, Allen Iverson, come on.
This team.
It was a short stint. I mean,
yeah.
it was all about Melo. And Melo left as a free agent for New York. So it's not like he left some huge legacy. He was their best player at the time. He led them to Western Conference Finals, and that's it.
And then there was the moment where Denver had to choose between Jokic and Jusuf Nurkic.
Yes,
because they were both producing good numbers in limited roles.
Yeah.
And they were like, okay, who are we shipping? And who are we giving the chance to be the guy, the man? And
there was the moment when they showed Taco Bell commercial during the draft pick of Nikola Jokic. There was the moment where they featured Jusuf Nurkic highlights on ESPN and when he signed a max contract with Denver Nuggets. And yesterday there was the moment when NBA Store sent an email with special offer to buy Nikola Jokic NBA Finals MVP merchandise on the subject of the email, putting Nikola Jovic actually. So this guy,
a Miami player.
This guy,
maybe they know something.
All the disrespect, all possible disrespect.
And
in the
it's
world.
not like he cares about these.
That's the most romantic part of this whole story. So just being sure, these few scouting reports of Nikola Jokic, he could be a poor man's Boris Diaw. But Boris Diaw is actually a cool guy, and a long range threat like Per Antic. I doubt it. Jokic would probably be the 4th or 5th scoring option when he's in the game, but all that matters is whether he plays efficiently. His defense will likely prevent him from ever playing 30-plus minutes or starting. Another scouting report. Perhaps this sounds harsh, but Jokic is being talked up as an NBA prospect, and it is hard to see how he gets there unless he can really improve his athleticism. Given how his body looks, that does not seem to be in the offing, even if he does hit the weights. He's yet another player with fantastic size and very nice touch from the perimeter, but his lack of foot speed and athleticism could make his NBA hopes a challenge. He's a first-round talent in a stacked draft, which says a lot about his potential as a role-playing center. And yeah, that's basically it. And I'm not blaming these scouts because there were nobody like Nikola Jokic before.
These are fair assessments.
Exactly, and they just followed the standard of such a profile player and their track record in the NBA, which is fair. And actually, I read a lot of scouting reports, and there's this narrative that everybody overlooked Jokic and nobody looked at him seriously. Actually, this is just a small portion of the whole scouting reports and the information that was put in. And actually, in basically every scouting report, you could see that he's one of the best passing centers that they saw. His IQ is unique. A lot of things that made Nikola Jokic great. So it's not like everybody was disrespecting in Europe.
And you could say that a similar story was before with Marc Gasol.
Yeah,
was also drafted pretty low, and people were also saying that he doesn't have the physicality, the athleticism to play in the NBA. He's just Pau Gasol's younger brother. He was just looked at it that way, and the Los Angeles Lakers traded him easily, traded the rights to Memphis Grizzlies. So, for every success story, there are like 20 stories that don't really happen. Because ever since early 2000s, teams were drafting these European big men every single year. And there are so many examples of players just who didn't make it to the highest level. So I cannot blame these scouts. No. They were just giving their fair assessments they saw at the time. And I don't think that the Denver Nuggets drafting him number 41 thought that this is the future MVP. They probably just were thinking, okay, we're going to get a promising European center. We will develop him and see what happens. And it's just the way it is with these second round picks. Sometimes you win, sometimes you don't. Nobody had expectations for Nikola Jokic to be the best player in the world.
I wanted to, when Ritis said, I wonder what Denver was thinking. Like, nobody knows what Denver was thinking drafting him. I want Donatas to get a Denver scouting report, what they had wrote about him,
And even better,
what they were saying about Jokic before drafting.
Of their internal communications that happened that night.
I might actually have Thomas Balilchetis, the assistant GM of the Nuggets, on the podcast next week on the Lithuanian one. So that's actually a good idea, to ask him to bring the scouting report that they had. Yeah. Although they were really high on Jokic. I mean, the scout that he's working in Denver to this day, Rafael Yutz, did an amazing job. Arturas Karnišovas also was really after Jokic as well. So they were believers, but to some extent, of course, nobody believed that he's gonna become a MVP material or even the NBA Finals MVP material. But anyways, enough of Jokic. We gave him enough love, enough credit. For sure, this is the Urbonus Q&A podcast, which means that the entire podcast will be available only for BN Plus members that you can become on basketnews.com/plus. And just a small part, basically the beginning of the podcast will be available for everyone. Before we start with the questions that we received from our BN Plus members and also from the fans on Twitter and over social media channels, I just want to give some love to our BN Plus subscribers who subscribe us on 2 All-Star and GM levels, and they are on Basket News Wall of Fame. So Paulius Tinteris, Hupvan, Kristas Pukitis, Gabrielius Serva, Sports Card Time, Jonut Gergesko, Alex Serigotis, David Zamzla, and Dio. Thank you all for supporting us on these subscription levels, but basically, thank you to everybody who are on BN Plus. We have almost 200 BN Plus members, which is huge, which is awesome. That's a big responsibility and, of course, pleasure to connect such a involved group of basketball fans and geeks around the entire world. We received some great questions as always from Charlie, from United States,
from everyone, not only from
South
him.
America in the last podcast. So not just Europeans are into European basketball that we try to cover. So yeah, let's begin because Rytis has trained to Telšiai.
I have time,
which is famous for great second-hand shops. Another amazing material.
It's not famous for that. I made it famous. Basically, that's one of my free time
one
activities.
Of the reasons why I go to Telšiai. I mean, second-hand
one
shops.
of my free time activities.
Get the Magic Johnson stuff.
No, that was taken in Riga.
Sorry. Okay.
I was working actually during the NBA Finals from the Latvian capital. It's just, long story short, I needed to do that.
That's how it works in Baltics.
It was like a workation. How do they call it? Yeah.
Let's go with the questions.
So, yeah, speaking of NBA center material, we have a question about Yorgos Papagiannis, and it's really interesting to hear from you guys. The
NBA
question is by
material and
Left
Yorgos
Lamb.
Papagiannis.
Do you think Papagiannis can succeed in the NBA?
He was already in the NBA. He isn't anymore.
Can he
I think we should first of all ask, can he succeed in
EuroLeague? Exactly.
Like on a winning team?
Okay.
Can he be like the main center of a winning team in Europe? Because last year
But that's the sorry for interrupting you. That's the funny part. You don't have to be successful in Europe, to be the NBA player or to be successful in the NBA. We have many examples.
Yeah, but we're not talking about a 19-year-old or a 20-year-old.
He was in the NBA because he was, he had the potential.
Because Vlade Divac made some interesting decisions. Yeah,
and a tall guy that can, stretch the floor from the mid-range, and he was given a chance to play in the NBA because basically, he was young and had an upside. Right now, he isn't that young anymore, and I don't think he's, even going to the NBA.
Listen,
like to go to the NBA doesn't have these type of centers anymore, in my eyes.
Yeah, if you want to be successful with that size, you need to have a huge offensive package, like Kristaps Porzingis.
Like you need to shoot the
We're
ball.
We're talking about that kind of
incredibly
skills.
amazing.
You have to be funny as Boban Marjanovic is, probably.
He's not playing.
Well,
he's
a locker room guy.
Yeah.
But, okay. Because defense is different with the defensive 3 seconds rule and everything. So Eddie Tavares didn't make it in the NBA. And right now we could say that Eddie Tavares could do more or less the same things that Rudy Gobert does for how many? $50 million a year? And Papagiannis, honestly, first of all, I would like to see him on a good EuroLeague team with a bigger role. Like last year, he was first team All-EuroLeague?
Second team.
Second team All-EuroLeague?
That was...
With Panathinaikos being...
out of the playoffs.
Below average team.
Yeah. Second last team, I believe. Only Žalgiris was behind
That was
him.
mind-boggling to me.
So these stats don't really matter if you're not winning games. I don't think that Papagiannis will be a very successful player in the NBA in the future, or even
be an NBA player.
Will any team sign him? I could compare him to Tibor Pleiss, for example. Kind of a similar idea when the Utah Jazz tried Tibor Pleiss as a big guy who can shoot, and maybe he could be a rim protector, but immediately they saw that it's not going to happen. So and now he's playing in Europe as a backup center. That's where I could see Papagiannis on a good EuroLeague team.
I agree. Not with him. You need a lot of two more different centers to have versatility in Europe.
Yeah, and what is interesting from what I heard behind the scenes, the possibility of him going to the NBA was bigger, and it was a more likely move last summer, although he was not an expiring contract.
After a great season.
Yeah, he had a great season. He was still, he's still relatively young, 25 years old, and, there was belief that he might end up signing to some club, of course, not for a big role, but at least to get a chance as a backup or, somebody close to the rotation of the NBA team. But right now, from what I hear, everything is more related to Europe, whether staying in Panathinaikos or going to some other EuroLeague team. So I would be surprised, first of all, if he would get into the NBA, and of course, succeeding here is another topic. We have a question from Beyond Plus member Emma, and she was concerned about Nikola Mirotic landing in Milan. Let's say we're not questioning the whole information published by Emiliano Carce from Sportando, but let's say Mirotic is going to Milan. What do you think about that? Well, would it be a good option? Would it be a good upgrade for the team?
I mean, if you have two stretch fours, Nikola Meli and Nikola Mirotic, what more can you ask for from the offensive side of things? And then it's just a question, who will be their playmakers next season? Because we know why Milan struggled this year in EuroLeague and what were their main issues. But, well, adding Mirotic to your lineup is easy.
It's a great plus.
Is it good for him? Well, if he's getting the money he deserves, then yeah, of course. Because if that's true, that Barcelona is asking Mirotic to reduce his salary by 50%, why should he? You have a contract,
exactly,
and you should be paid accordingly. And why should you give discounts to the team? So if Barcelona don't want him anymore, Milan is one of the possible destinations, because how many clubs could afford Nikola Mirotic for 2 or 3 million euros per season?
Probably only 2 clubs.
2 or 3 teams only.
3 teams.
Yeah.
I mentioned in the previous pod that Milan's best and most used lineup this season was actually the one with Shabazz Napier in it. And when I opened all the lineups, it was like 1,000 different lineups they played because of all the injuries. And their most was with Napier, Barron, Siobhan Shields, who played 5 games in 2022, Melli, and Voigtman. So if you change Voigtman with Nikola Mirotic in this 5, you have so much offensive potential. Like you can't even compare this 5 to what he had around in Barcelona, like in the offense, I mean. And just incredible potential in my eyes. He doesn't need to be the guy anymore in this lineup. Like there is so much other options. Napier, Barron, off-ball shooting, Shields, Melli can create, off these handoffs. And he can be not the guy, but he can be a complementary to others and play more of, in the closeout situations where he has more space already when he catches the ball. So in my eyes, if he really goes to Milan, they have some amazing potential in the offense.
My sources denied the report that... Thanks for watching the public part of the podcast. The rest of the podcast is available exclusively for BN Plus members. You can join BN Plus community on basketnews.com/plus.